people at the time, and I didn't know anybody, and I thought they were all crazy because it really was a celebration, and I just could not put two pieces together to figure out what this had to do with being a business, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't always go hand in hand with productivity.
No.
Like when you've got a bunch of people sitting around laughing, you sort of think, oh, maybe they're, not getting much done, but you've been asked them to do an extra large amount of work in recent times, and it does sound like it helps with everyone sort of being a team, and they're not forgetting the work they're doing. They're just sort of enjoying the day as they go through.
Yeah, it equips people to be able to do the hard stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think.
I think it builds loyalty. I think, again, it's that shared sense of something that just, the intangible, but having fun and having a chance to laugh and enjoy what you're doing makes work meaningful. And certainly we know, again, with retention studies that's a huge part. But larger than that, I think it's about authenticity. It's about, allowing people to be who they are and to recognize that and honor that. And I think that separates Northern Lights and I'm sure other companies who do that.
Sure.
It's interesting because we hear that we get feedback from the individuals that we help. So people who come in our doors for help with employment or what have you, and that culture, that positive environment, I guess, rubs off on them too, and they readily comment on that, how they enjoy working with our people for some of those reasons, not because we make a joke out of everything, but because I guess we lend a balanced perspective, and they recognize that there's more going on than just their current situation.
Exactly. And that's what they want, right? So they're going through a really tough time.
They're looking for hope.
Exactly. They're looking for hope, and that sense of that positive energy when they walk in is so important. It's so important. Now, something you said earlier, Brian, with regards to communications, how once you got some information, you share that. Can you share more about that? Because, oftentimes I find that companies, there's a few people in the organization who sort of, keep the information, and then they decide how it's going to get, disseminated, and they massage it, and and then it just seems like there's so much going on behind closed doors that then it creates a culture of, again, people wondering, am I being told everything?
Yeah.
So can you just tell us more about what are your communication strategies like?
Yeah, sure. Information, what you're getting at there, Louisa, is information is power, or can be used, right?
Yeah.
To wield power over people. So you've got the information, they don't. We try to, make sure that everybody knows everything as much as possible, or at least has access to find out what they're interested in. So we use a lot of communication channels, whether it's, broadcast emails to everybody, updates from the CEO that are posted on our intranet that people can see on sort of a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Team meetings and communicating back through the team leaders to what's going on. So that's the sort of that's the stuff that the front line, that's how they get the information. But at the same time, we communicate a lot the other way. We survey our staff a lot about different sorts of things. And it's interesting. One of the, sitting back as an observer and seeing the organization go through these tough times, we're doing a lot of communicating. Like we're sending out information as it comes out, and I'm sure we have dropped the ball from time to time where, because of busyness or whatever, something hasn't gotten out maybe as quickly as it could or what have you. But by and large, people recognize. We did a survey recently. 70% of the people thought that things were going on. We're being true to our values in terms of how we're handling this whole downsizing thing. There were about 30% who thought they weren't completely sure if we were sticking to our values, and we gave them the opportunity to comment on why. And some of the commentary was, there are these closed door meetings going on, and even though we know that those meetings and the information coming out of those meetings it's getting back to people like as fast as we can get it out, you can't avoid the perception that people may be not hearing the whole thing. And so that goes right back to trust and the issue of trust, right? People need, if you have that environment of trust, then they're going to know that they're getting all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's just fostering this, sense of openness. And I really like also what you said earlier with regards to telling stories, because I think, there is this sense that when you can remember the stories, everyone's got their, badges of honor, right? Those stories of when they, persevered. And it's interesting that you use storytelling to take people back to the times when you persevered as sort of, something that builds resilience during the tough times, reminds people of what their strengths are. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I'm thinking, and probably Brian could say more about this, but a recent difficulty we had with one of our contracts, and again, we often see this situation happen in Northern Lights where people leave maybe because of that cycle change with government policy or because we've had a problem with the contract, but those people tend to come back, and we're seeing that now, in fact. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Well, I would say, how many years ago now? 4 years ago, we had about 40 people because of a contract, a realignment sort of in government policy again. And we would hear the stories from people who have had left. They stayed in touch and wished they could come back, and many of them over time have made their way back to Northern Lights and are quite happy to be there. So, those are the kinds of stories now when we know that we're going to have some people, and some very good people who fit well with our organization. They're probably going to be forced to move on, and yet there's that hope that don't lose touch with us, and we know we're continuing to grow as an organization. There's going to be more opportunity. So, there's a story that we can relay to people that gives them hope.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more opportunities they have to do that, then the more they're tapping into their own resilience as well. Okay, that's great. So, is there anything specific? Are there any programs or anything you do to help employees stay positive, other than, we talked about humor, we talked about, storytelling, communications. Is there anything else you're doing for your employees to keep them positive as you go through this?
I think part of what makes us strong as an organization is that we involve, and that's the concept of the self-directed team. Is that they help make all the decisions. They're a pivotal part of making decisions and making choices. So I think part of helping people be positive is having control, over how things roll out and what happens. It's not an easy time that some people on a team are going to leave and some are going to stay. But what really has happened in all of the teams is that they've had a chance to talk as a group about, well, how do we want this to work? How do we see this type of service being delivered? How many staff do we think will make this effective, and how do we want to handle, from every aspect, from the way we roll out the program design? I mean, how are we going to do that? We had people coming in to talk about how they would see that program service being delivered, and so I think getting that involvement has been really critical. I think also continuing to celebrate, and a lot of the informal recognition that we do every day with teams. While we don't have a formal recognition program, we do have a lot of informal recognition and support happening. And again, I think it comes back to the core of who we are. We have a lot of empathetic people in our company, a lot of people who are caring. They're in a helping profession, and they use those skills and those talents to support each other.
Oh, that sounds great.
There's another piece that I might share, Louisa, that Crystal can probably knows more about this than I do, but it just came to my mind. One of our employees created a workshop about visioning that they felt might be helpful for their peers. And so we created this online opportunity for people to participate in this workshop in a virtual way. And that was a couple weeks ago or something that ran. And the kind of feedback that we get from that is that it was hugely helpful in terms of helping people sort of reframe their thinking for those that participated in it.
Good. So it was just something that was kind of spontaneous.
Yeah.
It came up. You thought it would be good, and let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a lot of the red tape.
Right.
Let's pass it by 5 committees before. Sounds good. Let's do it.
That's the great thing about being able to innovate, right?
Yeah.
People can say, hey, this is an idea, and let's throw it out there and try it.
Yeah,
reflects
that's
the
great.
flat.
Yes,
the flat
a flat
culture,
organization.
right?
Yeah,
that's great.
Exactly. Yeah. So this has been a great conversation. Why don't we